Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever, wherever you find yourself. Welcome to Demystify Tech with Sam. Yours truly, Sam Aladrani. We do this, we do this every Friday, demystifying technology to you, so that you can learn, all about technology. This series, we're talking about the Microsoft Azure Cloud, and we've been talking about the app service. Today is part 2 of the app service. We're going to be focusing on deployment slots, and then we'll try to do some CI/CD pipelines. If this sounds like something that's of interest to you, stick and stay with me. When we come back, we're going to just dive right into it. Don't go anywhere. So we are back. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, this is Demystify Tech with Sam. I do this every Friday, demystifying technology across board. It doesn't matter what the tech stack is, but this series we're concentrating on the Microsoft Azure services, the Azure Cloud. We talked about App Service. We started from an overview of the Azure Cloud services. We then looked at App Service Part 1. This is going to be App Service Part 2. Last episode we saw how we created a simple node application and then we deployed it into Azure and we could see it. Today I want to talk about deployment slots, and then we'll talk about some CI/CD pipeline. If this sounds like something that is of interest to you, yeah, let's jump into it. Before then, just a little housekeeping. Just give me a sec. There seem to be some technical thing here. Give me a sec, guys. I'll be right back. And sorry guys, we're back. There was some technical hitch that I had to check. I think it's fine now. Let me know if you're watching from around the world. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly, if the sound is okay. I saw some sound fluctuations, that's why I had to pause to check it out. So once again, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever, wherever you find yourself. This is Demystify Tech with Sam. I do this, as I said, every Friday, Demystifying Tech. So before we get into today's topic, which is App Services Part 2, we'll be focusing on deployment slots, and then we'll also take a look at some continuous CI/CD pipeline. Before then, I want to talk to you about two things, which I think as a developer you should be aware of, especially if you're interested on the Microsoft ecosystem. Almost every time I get people get the impression that Microsoft is not developer friendly in terms of Microsoft stack is only for enterprises. No, I'm here to let you know that Microsoft is not just for enterprises. If you're a startup, if you're a hobbyist, if you're a small business, Microsoft is all for you. If you are also getting started in the developer ecosystem, Microsoft is also for you. On my other channel, I shared something about the Microsoft 365 developer program, which gives you access to resources, services, free license for you to use to build and develop and test, a lot of Microsoft products, stuff on Microsoft products. So today I'm going to expose to you two things. First of all, resources for any developer who wants to use and test out the Microsoft ecosystem. And then 2, if you are a startup and you want to kickstart it, but you're having challenges getting resources and using it. So first off, I'm going to talk about something called the Microsoft or Visual Studio Dev Essentials or Visual Studio Developer Essentials. Now, this gives you access to free tools, cloud services, and free training. So let's go to the desktop. Let me show this. So this is it. This is the Visual Studio Dev Essentials. Now, quite very simple. It's everything you need in one place as a developer. So developer tools, cloud services, storage, trials to services, you can get them here. Developer tools like Visual Studio 2, Visual Studio Community, Visual Studio Code, other services, cloud services, you get $300 credit to use to create things. And after that, you can leverage all the other services for free. In terms of software, you get free software downloads to try to build your stuff. So I have activated that a long time ago, and that's what I use on this account. So like I mentioned, all the tools you need from Visual Studio Community, Pluralsight, you get some, stuff on Plural, some training from Pluralsight. For cloud, you get some free Azure account that includes 1 year of free services, 1 year, and then $200 for the first month. You get Azure DevOps, Azure Visual Studio App Center, Microsoft 365 Developer Program. So this is rolled into it. And then you also have the Power Apps community plan. So this is more or less like the bigger plan where if you subscribe, it's free to subscribe to. You just need the Microsoft account and subscribe. When you subscribe to this, you get all these things for free to build, to develop, to test, to try things. And if you're active with your development, you get renewed for another 12 months, another 12 months. So this is free resource that is available to you to access. In terms of software trials, you can get SQL Server Developer Editions, Power BI, Office Online, a lot of things. Let me just walk you through. So it's as simple as clicking the join or access now, and then it will take you to your account for you to access it. Now let me show you my account here. So I have so this is my account. As you can see, I've already utilized my Pluralsight trainings, but if I hadn't, I would have had access to use it. If you go down here, you can see I have access to Microsoft 365 developer subscription, which is E5. I have access to app migration assistance. There's Azure credit, $200. There's Azure DevOps, right? Which is what you can use to do CI/CD pipelines. We'll see how to do that today. And then you also have Visual Studio app. Let me do this. You also have access to Visual Studio App Center. If you're building mobile applications and you want to deploy them, you can use that. Then your Visual Studio Community, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio for Mac. There's even Syncfusion Xamarin controls, controls, third-party controls. You have Office Online, Power BI free plan, Power Apps developer plan, Sync. So you see, it's in collaboration with other third parties. So you still get access to third-party services. So you have Pluralsight. If you don't know Pluralsight is one of the biggest collection and biggest places for online tutorials for developers across board, and then other resources as well. So there's also 1 year digital subscription to the Code magazine, 1 month premium subscription to LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Q&A. So all these things are available for you if you sign up for the the Visual Studio Dev Essentials program. So I use that, and we're going to see how that plays. And then you can see here at the top here, in terms of my downloads, you can see all the downloads and the keys I have access to. So let me show you this. If I go to downloads, these are the things I have probably downloaded in the past or still have access to download. So you can see Visual Studio 2022, Windows 11, Windows 10, SQL Server 2022, and SQL Server 2019. In terms of product keys, yeah, these are the product keys I've downloaded. I think I don't need to share them, so just go here. Then subscription. So this is pretty much the free subscription, which is Visual Studio Dev Essentials. So this is these are some alternative accounts that use it. I can change. I need to change. This is my very old. Actually, let me do this right now. Let me delete it, and then I can add an alternative account. But by default, this is tied to my Outlook account. So right here, if I go to my account at the top here, you can see that this is connected to, as you can see, Sadranya Outlook. This is connected to my Outlook account, and then I have a how do you call it? I have a DevOps organization called Afrelogic. I'll change this as well, right? But yeah, so this is Visual Studio Dev Essentials, right? The second thing I want to share with you is the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. Microsoft for Startup Founders Hub. Now, what is this? Being a startup is quite sometimes, or most times, hectic. Trying to take off. There's funding issues, there's resources. I have a solution, I have a great idea. I want to prototype it, I want to do the MVP and put in the cloud so people can access it. I can get more feedback. Sometimes that becomes very difficult. If I told you that Microsoft has a program for that, would you believe it? No stress. You don't have to be in an incubator to have access to this. You don't have to be in an accelerator to have access to this, right? If you go to the foundershub.startup.microsoft.com, and I'll leave the description in the show notes. If you go there and set up, it's connected to your LinkedIn profile. So this is what you see. I have a small startup, Crafted Climate, under this, and we are just at level 2 development, right? The first level is ideation. We are level 2, which is development. Now, in level 2, what do we have? Let me show you the benefits we have for level 2. So this is it for level 2. These are the set of things we have access to. We have Azure credit, and I'll show you the details of that credit. We have Microsoft 365 Business Premium, which is like 1 year. We have GitHub Enterprise. We have some Azure pairing sessions with Azure developers to help us if we want to develop our stuff. We also have access to OpenAI, so GPT-3 access. There is Visual Studio Enterprise, as you can see down there. We also have access to the Azure OpenAI service that allow you as a startup to develop on the Microsoft OpenAI platform. We also have LinkedIn Premium for business. Let's go. So you have all these things at your disposal, right? Now, so in terms of development, you have access to that. So at level 2, you get $5,000 free, and as of now, I've only used $257, right? Now, to get to level 2, I need to grow, which is level 3, which is grow. I need to spend at least 50% of this, do a video, verify my domain and all that. And let me show you what I will get if I move on to level 3. So level 3 gives me, check this out. Check out what level 3 gives me. Level 3 gives me about 55% from Byteboard, gives me the first 3 months of Code C free. It gives me Mongo Atlas DB $5,000 worth of Mongo Atlas DB credit. It gives me $1,000 dollars of LinkedIn ads credit, and this is one that freaks me out. I get $25,000 in Azure spend, which is grow when you get to level 3, right? All these are available for you to use as a startup, so you don't have to sit there and say, I have a cool idea and I want to do it, but I don't know where to start. You know what? Just get started. All right. So brought you 2 things. Visual Studio Dev Essentials, go check it out. The second one is the Microsoft for Startup Founders Hub, which you can use to do all the cool stuff. Now back to today's session. So today we're going to talk about deployment slot. Actually, let's go to last week's session, what we did. So last week we created, let's go here. We created an app service called Demystifying Numbers. That's the app service. And we created the app service, and then we created a basic node application. And then we deployed it into the cloud. And let's go ahead and run this. I hope I didn't kill it. Yeah, there you go. So Express. So welcome to Azure, and the app is called Demystify Tech. So if you want to catch up last week, I'll put the link somewhere. So this is what we did last week. It was a very basic node application, which we scaffolded, and then we deployed it. What we did last week was we did the deployment through how do you call it? We did a deployment through Visual Studio Code, right? Now today I want to talk about, first of all, let's talk about deployment slot, right? Deployment slot. What are deployment slots? So technically, deployment slots are just a way or another instance, right, of your app service that allows you to separate or logically test out or deploy your code to another instance of your app service. So which means that I could have, let's say, an API deployed into the production slot, which is a logical separation. And then I have written or updated some features and I want to test that feature out. I wouldn't want to deploy that feature directly into production. So what would happen is that instead of creating a whole new app service, creating a whole new app service plan and all that, I can create a deployment slot that is just a break, another instance within the same app service that I can deploy the new changes to. What does this give? What benefit does this give me? Well, a couple of benefits. I can do A/B testing, which means I can modify my traffic so that a certain number of my users can hit the new API or the new changes, and some people can stay on the old one and look at how it works. Another important thing you can use to do is also to test new features like canary builds and stuff. Like I can test new features with it. So I can assign my testing group to use a development app slot, and then I can use that, right? That is how it works. Now I'm going to show you how easy or simple that is. So we're going to go, if you didn't see this, go back to last week's episode and watch what we did. So here on the left side of the blade, right? You go down here. Let's get this here. So right here, you should see deployment. Sorry. Here you see deployment slot under deployment. Now this is where you can go and create your various deployments. So I'm going to go ahead, click this, and this opens the deployment slot blade. Now where I can add deployment. So if you look closely, right now what we have is just a production, just one deployment, right? Called Demystifying numbers. So this is where anytime we do a build, it's going to come here, right? Anytime we do a build, it's going to come here. There is a limit to the number of deployment slots you can create, but I think I have to check that. You can create as many, but there is a limit to it. I'll verify that for you. Now, I can now create a dev or probably a staging. Now, this is not, I wouldn't say best practice or standard to do. It's just a way, it's another way of, logically separating or creating instances of your app in the same app service, okay? Rather than creating a new app service, complete new app service that runs on the same app service or a different app service plan. This is another way of doing that. Now, the cool thing is that it can also allow you to switch between your deployment slot to determine which one now becomes production and which one now becomes testing. And your end users might not even notice there has been a switch, unless they're paying particular attention to the content. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to start off with the same app we created last week. I'm going to create an app deployment slot, and then I'm going to flip, right? I'm going to flip it so we can see how we change it. But right now, as it stands, remember that if we go to the default website, which is the base one, this is what we see. Welcome to Azure, and the app is called Demystify Tech Demo. Look at this very carefully. In talking about app deployment slot, we're also going to look at how the application app settings, right, or application settings affect app deployment slot. You can also have deployment slot values or app settings values that affect pretty much all deployment slot or specific to deployment slot. And we'll see how to change that. So I'm going to create, first of all, I'm going to create a deployment slot, and then I'm going to deploy another instance of the application into the deployment slot, right? And then we can see the difference. First of all, in terms of changes, and then also application settings changes. So let's go ahead here. So still under the deployment slot, I go up here, and then I click on the add slot. So let's go ahead, click on add slot. It takes us here to give a name for the app slot. And here it would ask us whether we want to. So I want to probably call this, let's say stage. I'll call this staging, and look at what's happening. A couple of things. So because this app slot is called staging, it is actually modifying your original URL, right? And it's including dash staging. So if you created another one for dev, it will include dash dev, azurewebsite.net. It's just a way to separate it. So it's doing all the DNS and, you know, all the name conventions for you. Now, the other thing here is to clone app settings. Because I am creating a new deployment slot, the assumption is that this could be technically a new instance, and therefore I might want to have separate app settings. We saw in the last week episode that we used the app name in the app settings to give it a different name. So I'm going to show you how the deployment slots can be used to leverage so you can see the two environments. So for now, yes, we want to clone over any app settings that was in the production. I want to have the same versions in this staging one. So I'm going to say clone from Demystify, and then that's it. And then I'll click on add. Now, what this has done is going in the background to create an instance, another instance of my app service, right? Still hosted on an app service plan, but it's an instance of the app service created for me. And then I'm going to have another, technically a virtual instance of it that I can use. This time around, I have two deployment slots now. Awesome. So now you can see that both are running, as you can see from here. So we have Demystifying numbers, which is the production one, which is currently running. And then there's a Demystifying numbers staging, which is also running. But however, take a look at this traffic. So the first one, which is the Demystify numbers, right? All the traffic. So anytime all the traffic to this is coming, all the traffic is coming to this. So traffic to that domain is coming to this app service slot, all right? Or deployment slot, let's put it that way. So this is what I'm saying, that you can decide to say, hey, I want to either swap the slot or refresh it. So now let's first of all see how different that is. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and that is going to have its own URL and stuff like that. So here, this is the original one. Welcome to Azure, right? App is called Demystify Tech Demo. And then now let's copy this and open this. So you see that here it's completely empty. There's a brand new instance for us. Nothing has been deployed in there. It's a brand new instance where we can now deploy and do all our interesting things. All right. Now, so to show you that, now I'm going to give you a scenario. The scenario is, okay, so we've deployed this very awesome website. We want to test some new changes. Maybe we want to subtitle, we want to change the name of the application from Express to something else. But I want it to be subtitle, I want it to test that. We don't know how, we don't want our users to, you know, see some drastic change. So let's see how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code, which is where we did the change the last time. So let me close this. So right click from here. I think we called it, where is that? Where is that? Yep, we called it web app. So let's do this. Okay, so this is it. So if you go into web app, we look at the index. So pretty much, this is it, right? The title here, as you can see, so if we go to the index, there you go. It's passing, we're passing all this information here. And like I said, we talked about this last week. So here, the title is Express, and the app name we're getting from the app's environmental variable, in this case, app settings. So now the requirement, the feature requirement is, hey, Sam, what we want to do is that we want to change the name from Express to something else. You know, so let's test this. Let's see how people respond to the name change, or let's see how people respond to all that. So I'm going to go ahead and then say, instead of Express, what's another word for Express? Let me see. Let me use Copilot. What is another interesting word for Express? I mean, it's not, this is not a programming It's not a programming thing, but yeah, it says Swift, right? Thank you very much. Copilot says Swift. So accept. And then I'm going to call this Swift. This is a super change. Awesome. We've been able to, make the change. We're cool. Everybody says, wow, this is awesome. We like this change. We love it. Let's deploy it. But hey, let's make sure that the people like it and gradually, just pretty much understand where we're coming from with this. All right. So what we're going to do now, so I'm going to save this. Obviously, I would want to go and run my start just to make sure that it's working well. So sorry. So let's go ahead. We need to make sure be a good developer when you write your code, test it out. So we're gonna go ahead and yeah, this was a lot of things I was doing. Yep, there we go. Right, yep, start. We're building it. We want to test out and make sure that our app is solid. Our app is working flawlessly, right? So let's go here. And then I'm going to open this as a local host, 3000. Look at that. Beautiful. So our beautiful application is saying that it's Swift. So the change, we've accepted the change. Everybody is happy. We like the change. We like what we see. We need to deploy this change and make sure, though, that this original application still stays the same. All right. So with this, localhost is working fine. It's time to deploy into Azure. Let's stop this. And if you remember last week, what we did was to deploy with how do you call it, the app service, right? So let's go ahead and so let's go to deploy. Where is that? Yeah, deploy to web app. And then it's going to, and if you're wondering how this happened, please go back to watch previous episode. I pretty much went through step by step on how to create and do this, right? So good. So yeah, recently used is asking me my subscription, Visual Studio Enterprise, which I got from Visual Studio Dev Essentials. That's why I got that from. So you click on Demystifying numbers. Now check this out. Actually, we don't want to do this. We want to do this instead. Let me do slot. Good. This is what I wanted you to see. Now, you can see the changes. Azure App, create a new deployment slot, but look at this. App Service, right? This one here, right? App Service that says deploy to slot, right? That is what we want. We don't want to do, because we want to this time put it to a specific slot, right? Let's go ahead and do deployment slot. Yeah, so app service deploy to deployment. It will still go through the same process, ask you for the subscription, which is Visual Studio Code. It will ask you for the app service, the main app service name, and it will still be Demystify numbers. And then it will now ask you for which deployment slot you want to put it in. Right, so this is what's happening in the background is going fetching using the Azure APIs, fetching all that information and bringing it. So is this going to ask you which deployment slot do you want to put this in? Right, there you go. So you see it. We have staging. We have the staging deployment slot. So that is where we want to put it. So I select it, and yeah, that's it. Web app. What's the folder I want to deploy? This is the folder I want to deploy. Do I want to deploy the root? Oh, let's deploy the web. That's fine. Yes. Yes, I want to deploy this. And all it's saying is that it is going to override pretty much everything in there. Now, you remember that last week, what we had to do was actually to use FTP to do the deployment, right? Let's make sure this goes out well. Else I'll just go ahead and deploy the bin. Everything in the bin. Don't worry. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it says deployment to Demystify number state complete, right? So now let's go back to that website. which we have here. As you can see, Demystify numbers staging Azure website. Let's refresh this. Look at that. Check this out. So we have Swift, right? So we've successfully deployed this into a different, this is a staging environment. So look at the production one, which is Demystifying numbers.azurewebsite.com. Still refresh. This is Express. Now this is now what? Swift. But we said this application is Swift. It's no longer called Demystify Tech Demo, right? How do we make the change to affect this? Remember, we talked about the app settings. So in this case, we still go to the staging environment, go to configurations, and then like magic, we go and change. Remember when we're creating the app service, we're creating the deployment slot, we were asked if we wanted to copy everything over. We said yes. So as you can see right here, app name, right? So this is the app name environmental variable in the new deployment slot. So what we have here right now, it says, check this out. Right now it says Demystify Tech Demo. So let's go ahead and change this by hitting the edit on the far side here. And then we'll call it the Swift Exchange. Let's call it the Swift Rapid Exchange. All right. And then, okay. Right. Don't forget to save. Hit save at the top right here. Don't forget to hit the save. So I hit save and then we hit continue. So we're making the changes to this, right? So deployment change has happened. Now we have the app name called Swift Rapid Exchange. So if you go to our staging and refresh, what's happening? There you go. Check this out. Swift Rapid Exchange. And this is the main one that says Express, Demystify Tech Demo. This one says what? Swift Rapid Exchange. So now in our app service, we have two deployment slots. This is the current production one, which says Express. And then we made the change to our app. We sent it out to staging, now called Swift. Using app settings, we changed it to Swift Rapid Exchange. Now application, you know, is looking fine. Everybody says, yeah, this is what we want. We want you to help. This is what we want. We want this. We want this. We want this. Okay, granted. Now, because you want this, right? Because you want this. Now, how do we now make this the production site? How do we make this the production site so that now all the traffic will be directed to this site, which is the staging one? This is where Azure App Services make it really interesting and make it really nice. So we go to deployment slot. Let's go to Demystify numbers. Actually, yeah, let's go to deployment slot. So we can see here, there are two deployment slots, the production and the staging. But as of now, check this out. As of now, all the traffic is coming here. All the traffic is here, right? Let's do this. All the traffic is right here, right? So we now want to say, hey, we want this one, which is the Swift, to now become production, so that when people go to demystifyingnumbers.azurewebsite.net, they can actually see the Swift one in production. So how do we do that? So we come here into our app service and we hit this very beautiful button. Sorry, this one. Forgive me. This one. We swap. Simple. So when you hit the swap, it asks you, okay, now we're swapping. Let the staging now become production and production become staging, where we can continue to do our work, right? This would be a simple cookie cutter way of doing it, right? So let's go ahead and hit the swap. And on the right, we're going to say, hey, what's the source? Let's look at this very well. So this is the information we have. So the source is the Demystify number staging, and this is the target, right? we want to now take it to the production environment. And then want to support, we want to perform the swap with preview. You can see what you're doing. And this is what's going to happen in terms of the changes. Let me shift myself to the left so that you can see this properly. So another thing it's telling us is that when this swap happens, the app settings are going to change. So the old value of Swift Rapid Exchange is going to change to Demystify Tech Demo. Now, the question is that what we want? Or we want the app settings to still be maintained because this is the new one, right? So let's go ahead. It just means that when the change is done, right? When the change is done, we just go ahead and make sure we change that settings because it's an environmental variable. So let's go ahead. The target changes will just change from old value to Demystify Tech Demo to Swift. So all that is going to happen for us. So all I have to do is hit swap down here and fingers crossed. Ting, 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 ting. We're just waiting. Waiting. So we're just waiting for the swap to happen. And all this while, our application is still running, right? If you go here and I refresh, and I go here and I refresh, well, the swap has already happened. That was fast. So now look, if you go to Demystify, maybe you think, so if you now go to the original website, which is demystifyingnumbers.azurewebsite.com, now has the Swift, which is the new changes, and then also is swap the app settings values. So now the production website now has what everybody has agreed from staging is now here. And then if we go to the staging, now check this out. Now staging now has Express. So this is how to do the very simple make changes, push into a different version, assess, and deployment slot in app service make it very easy for you to handle or do that. So that's a very simple one. Now, the next thing is, and assuming this is going to happen on a regular cadence. Last week's episode, you saw how we did the deployment. And you see that today I changed it a little bit. So last week, what we had to do was to use FTP FileZilla, copy all the files via FTP and put it in Azure. And then the changes, anytime we made a change, we had to manually copy the changes via FTP. But then this week, on this episode, I've shown you how to use Visual Studio Code and just use deploy to app slot or app service, and then just select the application, and then it does the deployment for you. You don't need to do any copy. Even with that, there could still be some, some challenges, especially if the cadence or if the iteration is quite fast. It might be some kind of an issue trying to do that. So how then do we take this to the next level? So assuming we want to, add more things to it, make a change and see it build automatically and do that, then comes in the concept of pipelines, right? Then comes in the concept of pipelines or CI/CD, where you make the change, you build the application, and then the application is deployed, to the cloud based on the changes you happen. And you can decide to do gated checkout, automatic builds, deployment, and pretty much define it anyhow you want. So I think the next thing we have to do, I want to show you, is first of all set up your pipeline. Now you can use GitHub if you want to. If you have a GitHub account, you can set up GitHub and use it. Now that means that your application has to be in source control, and that's why I mentioned GitHub. So if you look at our application right now, if we go back to our code, I don't think we have any Git in our code here, right? If you look at the code, let me push myself over. If you look at the code, we don't have any, source code management thing here. It's just a plain old thing sitting locally here. So it would require us to put this code into source control, example, into a repository like GitHub, Azure DevOps repository, Bitbucket, GitLab, any, right? GitHub is a very popular one. So because this application already exists, I can go ahead and initiate a GitHub repository inside here so that I can now have this code on how do you call it, on GitHub. You could also use Azure DevOps, right? You could also use Azure DevOps to do it, and it's the same thing, right? Azure DevOps will do the same thing as well for you. The only thing is, most times I prefer Azure DevOps because there's it's something that I've used for a long time, and it does the work seamlessly for me. It doesn't mean GitHub Actions cannot do. But yeah, there are some things you can pretty much do much easier using Azure DevOps, especially the classic pipeline, versus GitHub Actions, which is more infrastructure as code or a lot more code based, right? So let's see, today I'm going to show you how to use. Let's go ahead and use GitHub, right? And then I would show you how to incorporate. In the next episode, we'll talk about continuous CI/CD with DevOps, and that'll be what we'll talk about. And we'll bring the curtains to the close on App Service. If there are any specific things you want me to do in App Service, we can do that. I think what I'll do next week. When is next week? Next week Friday. Yeah, we can still do that. So next week Friday, what I will do is we will see how to add a custom domain to what we are doing. All right. So hopefully it doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. So let's get into it. So right now we want to do continuous deployment. So the first thing we need to make sure is application is in a repository. So let's go ahead and set this up. So I'm going to go to my GitHub repository. And because it's a public thing, I'm just going to create it as a public. Anyway, I'm going to create it as a, this is my, go to my profile. This is my profile. Let me look at my repositories. I'm not looking at the organizational repository. So I have all these repositories, Demystify, Azure, which, okay, this is this is for my Beaver Team user group. Yeah. Let's see, website, Git 101, Power Farm, Vanilla Static. I think I have one for, you know what? No, I think I have so these are my public repositories. You can go check them out. I remember the days when I built Alexa skills. Yeah, I have all that here for you to try out. Transit tracker, yes, this is my Alexa mashup API. I did something for Capital One as well. Let's see. Okay, you know what? I think we should just go ahead and create a new repository. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll call this repository Demystify Tech. Let's see. Does it exist? Yes, it exists. So we'll go ahead here and say code base for Demystify Tech. So I won't add any readme. Well, I'm not going to add anything, right? Because I already have a repository. Sorry, I already have a code base locally, so I'm not going to add it. I can add all that, separately. I'm not going to add any git, so just go ahead and create. Oh yeah, select owner. It's me. This is for me. It's not for. So yeah, it's a public repo. Everybody can access it. Yeah, I'm giving access to all these add-ons or apps. All right, so once you do this, what's going to happen is that you can either start using this repository in the code spaces. So code spaces is your online workspace where once you do it, it creates a Visual Studio Code and a virtual environment for you online for you to work. You don't need to have Visual Studio Code locally, to do that. So now if I already have, so this is it. This is what I'm going to do. If I already have code base, which in our case is what we have, this is what we need to do. So we're going to do this. This is what we are going to do. Right? This is what we're going to do. And then once this is done, we can now go back to App Service. I'll show you how to now connect this to it and we can do continuous deployment to it. All right. So let's go ahead. We first need to set the remote. So I'm going to do this. Let's bring up Visual Studio Code. So we'll do that. No Git repository. Let's see. So Let me do this. Git init. There you go. And that just initializes a Git repository in the code. And then now I can do this. There you go. Now that works. Where are we? And then we need to change to the main branch, right? If we want to use, if we want to push this code to the main branch, right? So for now, well, we won't go with best practices, right? So we'll switch it to the main branch. I'm having a feeling that you want us to. Okay, don't worry. We'll for the sakes of. What does it say? Main does not match any. What is happening? Says failed to push some reference to. Let's see. Let's see what this is missing. Actually, let me check this out. So now, as you can see, I am in the main. Let me be sure that. Let's close this. Confirm and continue. I don't know what Edge wants to do with it here, but okay. So let's go back here, and then I'm just going to refresh this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay. What is this saying? I hope it's not. So I'm opening this here to see why. Oh, okay. Okay. I see this. I see that fix. Okay, so let's do this. Let's try this. Get to origin. There we what? Did it change that? Hold on. Yeah, it's there. It's there. Okay, let's do this. Ah. Does it mean I don't have rights to my own repository? Hold on. What? How am I logged on here into Git? Guys, I don't think I'm logged on into Git, so it's preventing me. You know what? Let's go to GitHub. Interesting. You know what? Let me go here and see. That is interesting. So yeah, I see it's logged on to GitHub because sorry guys, this is part of it. If I do this, yeah, Copilot is working fine, which means that my GitHub is connected. Local pull branches. Actually, let me save this first. No, not GitHub pull request. Sorry guys. There are no issues. Yeah, so I see the changes here. Okay. Let me just commit this. Yeah. Let's commit all this. And let's see what happens. Please enter the commit message for the changes. Let's go ahead and see update. Now this we should create a git ignore so that it doesn't include all the node modules, because that'll be built by the pipeline. So you don't want to copy all, because it can take a lot of time, and it can. So let's go ahead. There you go. So yes, committing. So it's because we have all these things coming in. That's why we are getting these issues. So there you go. Let me say commit operations was cancelled due to empty message. So let's say let's call this initial initial commit. Come here. Where are you? Okay, there we go. Initial commit. I want to commit and push. So let's do that. Yes. Let's close this. So that's committing and publishing. So, okay, that seems like it happened. That looks like it happened. Boop. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but yeah, with all the Copilot stuff happening, you can literally click on this. It's like the Copilot, and that will give you some context. So if I wanted to explain what this is, I can just say, hey, Copilot, explain using Copilot, and Copilot to tell me GitHub terminal, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to do that now. So yeah, I can put it on this side here, but I don't want that now. But it looks like it's deployed. So let's go ahead to let's refresh this and see if it's here. And there you go, right? So we can see that the application is here. So now our code is in the repository, right? But I want to do something. I want to show something when I'm doing the DevOps deployment. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new branch called dev and create it from main, right? So all I have done is that I'm creating a new branch in my source code repository that is going to copy everything from the production or the main branch and put it here. The reason we're doing this is to leave the main the way it is and then make all the changes. And it's kind of like best practice, mostly for practices of developing, right? Of developing your code. Some applications will say for every feature, create a branch, do the changes so we can merge. That's a whole like Git flow, whole thing that if you want me to talk about, I can talk about. But now we have the dev branch, which is ready and to take all our changes. And then we can now use, how do you call it? We can now use this for development. So when we develop, we want to probably put it in staging and then from staging to production, right? So to do this, I'll go ahead to our code and then I'll do git checkout dev. And now if you're using oh my posh like I do, you can see right here that I am in the dev environment right here. Oh my posh tells me I'm in a dev environment and all the cool stuff that I need to do. So awesome. So now that we know we are in the dev environment and this code is the code in the dev environment, one thing I want to do is I want to add a get ignore so we don't have the whole of the node modules because there's a lot. Now, the reason why you have a CI/CD pipeline is for some of these processes to be offloaded to the build pipeline in the cloud to build it. And as part of the build process, you will tell it, hey, run npm install, run this build, run a test, do this before you deploy it, right? So I think I have a utility here that is get ignore. Yeah, git add get ignore is going to run this and tell me it's supposed to run and ask me what kind of get ignore do I want to add. Going out, bum. Did this thing work? Let's see. Let me try this again. Get ignore. I think let's see. I don't know if it added it. Else I would have seen a get ignore here. It didn't add it. Hold on. Let's look for the extension. There is an extension that does that. Why is it telling me to reload? Oh man. Okay, let me do this. Get ignore. Yep. No, there is get ignore. Let's pull. Yeah, is it code zombie? I think it's code zombie because it's 3.1 million. So let's install this. Installing. So what get ignore does is that it allows you to set up a get ignore. All right. This thing says we need to reload. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. Let me clear this. And then we'll just do the reload. Sorry guys. I think there's some updates to the to some of the extensions, so it wants me to reload for it to properly see it. 4 minutes. Yes, I'm just going to show you how to create a git ignore, and then we'll do another push to it. And then next week we'll do, unfortunately, we've added the code to the repository, but I don't think 4 minutes will be able to do the CI/CD pipeline. So we'll do a part 3 of this, which is going to be, we've seen deployment slot today, but we're going to do CI/CD pipeline, GitHub, and then DevOps. All right. So with that added, let me go ahead and do it again. Control-Shift-P, and then do git ignore. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. So there you go. Add git ignore. You open it and look at that. So now it's asking me what application am I building. It's a node. It's a node application, right? Hold on. Let's see. I think it's yeah, it's a node application. So I can do node, and that's it. It's created a git ignore and added it. So you can see here git ignore, and here it's ignoring all these things, all the log files, all the report files, all the bar components, log strip, node modules, web modules, npm, blah, 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 blah. It's ignoring all these things. Ideally, you would have to come and type all these things and go, but this does this for you, so you don't need this. So now I can go to git add. I'm adding everything. Yes, I want it. Git commit message added git ignore file, and then we'll do git push. That's it. So now this is pushed. So if we go back to the dev branch, this is the dev branch. If you look closely, we didn't have any git ignore, but if I refresh, we have, there you go, git ignore added, which you can see says now right here. Good, solid. So now that we have this, the next thing would have been to try to create a pipeline. So it says, hey, I want this to be such a way that anytime I make a change to my code, I want you to build this thing for me and, you know, send it into the cloud, right? Now, the easiest way you could have done this is to use the actions, right? So you can click on actions, and here, as you can see, it's trying to suggest. So here, deploy node application to Azure App, deploy node application to Azure Functions App. You can see different types, right? And you can actually even search. If I say deployment slot, hopefully there's one that puts it into deployment slot. Let's go to deployment. All right. Okay, don't worry. Yeah, but pretty much yes, this is it. So I'll probably select, hey, deploy a Node.js to Azure App, which is, this was done by Microsoft and put here. So you can see all different deployment options. This is using GitHub Actions, right? This is using GitHub Actions. So if I say here and I do web, if I do Azure web app, maybe I want to further narrow it down. So there's a node, container app, static web app, PHP, Java, .NET, Python, right? And our app is a node application. So if you want to do this, you just select here, deploy node to configure this, right? But I'm going to tease you a bit, and this is what time will permit us, 1 hour on the dot. I'm trying to be very respectful to time lately. So if you want to see me continue this next week, Friday, make a date with me, join me as we do this again. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, like, share, subscribe, so that, you know, when I release it, you can see it. And then also, if this is easier for you, what you can do is just scan the QR code up here, and then you can subscribe to the channel so we can see this. So next week, I am going to show you now how to create the DevOps pipeline using GitHub Actions, and then we'll create another one using the Azure DevOps pipeline. So this has been yours truly, Samuel Adjani, bringing you part 2 of overview Demystifying Microsoft Azure App Services. I'll come your way again next week for the continuation of this, but it is the festive season, and Merry Christmas to you and a prosperous new year. I hope that you find everything you want in the coming year. I pray for good health, long life, a lot of opportunities and elevations for you, and a lot of, you know, time together so we can learn and make the world a better place through technology. With that said, I'm signing out, but I'm not leaving you. I'll catch you again next week, Friday. Be safe, be cool. Don't do what I wouldn't do. Have fun, chill. But hey, have a limit to it. And be careful out there. Festive seasons are crazy. So until I come your way again next week, this is Samuel Adranyi with Demystify Tech. I'll catch you next week. And let's make the world a better place. I'm out.